Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listen. Naiwi wan Hanash Tsutori. Crew to battle stations. The captain's command echoed through the bridge as the ship shook, almost as if it could feel the weight of the enemy fleets emerging in the darkness of space. The background lights turned red, and the entire ship went on high alert. The Volnar fleet was about to face the vastly superior Darvan armada. As the battle began, bullets and plasma bolts danced in the void of space, each explosion reverberating through the hull of the ship as the fate of the Volnars hung in the balance once again. The captain stood in the center of the bridge, his eyes locked on the enemy fleet's movements, never hesitating for a moment. "Today, we either win or we perish," he shouted, his voice a battle cry, igniting the morale of the crew. The Volnar ships continued to fight with determination, even as their hulls cracked under the relentless assault. The shadow of the Darvans loomed over them, growing darker with every passing second. The first moments of the battle were brutal for the Volnar fleet. Their 12 ships quickly dwindled under the relentless attack of the Darvan technology. Dozens of Volnar warriors were lost, their bodies merging with the emptiness of space as their ships were torn apart. The Darvans, as always, were merciless. Their superior technology and tactical brilliance provided them with an overwhelming advantage. But the Volnars refused to give up. As the battle raged on, only one thought occupied my mind. What would decide the fate of this war? The Darvans or us, the Volnars? Deep down, I felt the same hopelessness that every Volnar must have been feeling. But something was about to change, something that would turn the tide of this war entirely. The first months of the war were a nightmare. After the Darvans occupied Zorith 126, they delivered a crushing blow to the Volnar nation. Our economy was on the brink of collapse, and our civilians lived in fear. Without that critical trade hub, the future of our nation looked bleak. But in this darkness, a light appeared. Unexpectedly, a simple action by a human began to change the course of the war. This human was an ordinary trader. While passing through Zorith 126, his ship was struck by Darvan pirates, leaving his vessel in ruins. When we rescued him, he was carrying nothing more than a few kitchen utensils and a sack full of worthless cacao beans. At first, we didn't take him seriously. Weak, vulnerable, and strange, he was nothing more than a burden to us. But over time, it became clear that this human was much more than just a simple trader. During his time on our ship, he began to produce various delicacies from the cacao beans in our kitchen. At first, the smell was unbearable, but eventually, those beans were turned into a drink called side, which boosted the crew's energy and morale. But the real surprise was that this drink and the chocolate he made weren't just tasty treats. The human had built a booming business across the cosmos using these two products. It was shocking to learn that our markets had been selling these beans at such a low price, and yet the human had made a fortune from them. However, the Darvans were slow to realize the truth behind these simple products. The cacao beans weren't just food, they were also the key to an ancient weapon or technology. These beans from Zorith 126 contained a rare element that could awaken an ancient power. This discovery instantly elevated the stakes of the war. Both the Darvans and we Volnars raced to secure these beans. The Darvans would do anything to harness this power and turn the tide of the war in their favor. "Fire the kinetic warheads. Aim at their right formation," the captain shouted as the ship began launching warheads toward the Darvan armada. Explosions rocked the ship as a plasma bolt struck the hull, dealing heavy damage to our energy cores as we struggled to make our next move. The fleet of 12 Volnar vessels was now reduced to 3, barely holding on with enough willpower to keep fighting. We gave everything we had to the fight, and we decided to sacrifice ourselves so the rest of the ships could escape to the nearest jump point. "Keep our guns focused on the right flank. We need to make way for the rest to retreat," the captain ordered again as the detection officer reported the arrival of unidentified ships into the sector. The captain groaned. "What could it be now? We're already dealing with the Darvan fleet. If these ships are going to be a problem for us, then—" "Captain, they're asking if we need more of those beans." "The what? What do you mean by beans? We've got an entire fleet on our tails, and you're asking me about beans?" The captain was furious. But the moment I realized what was happening, his anger turned to astonishment. That embarrassing human had returned. The sudden jump of the Terran fleet into the sector shocked my fellow crew members as they saw a vessel that dwarfed our own. They began deploying their guns and fighter craft, engaging the Darvan armada without question. Some of the vessels started firing their own ordnance at the enemy fleet, piercing through their hulls and shields like paper. Any ordnance headed for our ship was redirected toward the new fleet, and they shrugged it off like dust. The Darvan ships were falling one by one like paper. "Sir, you have a line request," from one of the Terran ships. The captain agreed to open the line, seeing the same clumsy human who had once been dressed in casual clothing, now wearing an officer's uniform. His smile was still overflowing with bliss and glee. "This is Admiral Amar of the Unified Terran Coalition Fleet, designation Aquila of Mars," he said, holding a mug of that hot concoction and taking a sip. "Do you need more hot table, or am I just late for the party?" He chuckled as he took another sip. But Amar's arrival was just the beginning. The Darvans, realizing they were about to lose, activated a superweapon or doomsday device as a last-ditch effort. This device threatened not only the Volnars but everyone in the sector, including their own ships. The Volnar-Terran alliance came together in a desperate race against time to disable the weapon. Amar, along with a Volnar team, launched a daring infiltration mission to deactivate it. But another surprising truth emerged. The cacao beans the human had traded, or perhaps some other seemingly simple item, had an unknown crucial property. These beans might contain a rare element essential for an ancient weapon, or serve as the key to unlocking hidden technology on Zorth 126. Now both the Darvans and the Volnar-Terran alliance were racing to secure this unexpected asset. Both sides were determined to win the war by gaining control of these valuable beans. "You see, Captain," Amar said, looking at the screen, "this war isn't just won with technology or power. Sometimes the simplest things can be the key to victory. Those cacao beans might just be more powerful than anyone could have ever imagined." "I understand now," the captain said, this time with admiration. "Those beans are much more than we thought. Let's disable that device, Amar, and end this war." Amar smiled. "This is just the beginning, Captain. The Darvans have played their last card, but we're determined to outplay them." And so Amar and the Volnar team united to deactivate the final weapon, fighting with everything they had to win the war. This battle wasn't just about winning a war, it was about shaping the fate of a nation.